Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of First Look, Final Word, the podcast where we take you along to see a new movie with us. My name's Pete.
And I'm Trevor. What's going on, Castaways from the B team?
That's appropriate.
Today we're seeing Thunderbolts with an asterisk. After finding themselves ensnared in a death trap, 7 disillusioned cast-offs,
There you go.
must embark on a dangerous mission that will force them to confront the darkest corners of their past.
There you go.
All right, if you are new to the podcast, we are literally just driving to go see Thunderbolts today, and then we're going to give you a spoiler-free review after we see the movie.
Yeah.
On the way there, I think we're going to talk about, Marvel, where Marvel's sitting right now, and then also get into our new project.
Yes, which, I don't know, we're not really a teaser. I'm sure it's going to be in the title of this episode, but yeah, we're into our Superman run now, so excited to get into that one. So it's pretty superhero heavy today. I just realized.
Well, and it's very, I was going to say, it's very interesting. That's not a very interesting way to cue it up.
It's very interesting. It really is interesting, Trevor.
We're going to be talking about the very first superhero movies ever made today,
Yes.
which is pretty cool. And then the most recent superhero movie.
Which is also very, very great.
Great bookends.
Yeah.
I swear we're usually more articulate.
The earliest ever superhero movie to be made, and also the most recent superhero to be made.
Wow. So we'll have to do this again with each superhero movie that comes out.
Just keep
to keep it as a bookend.
Keep reviewing Superman.
So I believe this is our 4th Marvel movie that we've covered on the podcast.
Is it? I was trying to think that. I should have looked.
We've done the Marvels,
Yeah.
Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Oh yes.
Captain America: Brave New World, and now Thunderbolts. And it feels like Captain America, the most recent one, is really tied in with this movie.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I don't know really.
Well,
It's hard to say. I'm not really understanding how this movie is going to tie in because
Well,
it's a bunch of characters that nobody really seems to care about.
Thunderbolt Ross is basically the main character of the last Captain America movie.
That's why I find this odd because, like, in the comics they were called Thunderbolts because they were put together by Thaddeus Ross, right?
Yeah.
That's why they had that name. But I feel like they're obviously not going to have Harrison Ford show up in this movie and put this team together from jail.
I think he's going to be in it a little.
I don't think he will. I think it's just going to be totally. It's going to be what's her name, Val. What's her name? Louis Dreyfus.
Yeah, Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
It's going to be Julie Dreyfus taking on that role,
Well,
but they're still called the Thunderbolts.
I think that's probably why there's the asterisk there,
You're
because
right.
our name is going to be changing soon.
Yeah. I hope they explain that the asterisk because they've made a huge point of it in the market as well. It's like
it's very conspicuous.
It's an interesting choice to throw that in there.
So I had never even heard of Thunderbolts until you were explaining it.
Oh, really?
On probably Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Yeah, I don't know how popular they are. They're just like
it's like a Suicide Squad, Dirty Dozen kind of thing, right?
It's not
Which
super original.
Been done a lot now, but these all seem to be like pretty well loved B characters from the Marvel
Are they though?
universe. I would say so.
I don't know if they are like well loved. Like I don't. That's what I mean. Like maybe one or two of them, like Bucky and Yelena, I think were well loved, but the rest of them are just like
Yelena's dad. I think the David Harbour character. I feel like he was the favorite from that Black Widow movie.
I mean, I guess, but I don't think people are clamoring to see more of him, though, were they? Like,
no, well, any of these characters by themselves, I don't think people are clamoring to go to the theaters.
Fair.
You mix them all up in a blender.
Yeah, but like the others, like what is it, Ghost from the much loved Ant-Man and the Wasp? No, the second movie that nobody liked.
I think she would. Man, you keep saying that, but I like that movie.
I like it
it's
too.
Really good.
I'm not gonna shit on Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's my favorite Ant-Man movie.
No way, the second one.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, well that's fine.
There are going to be people like shouting at their car stereos right now.
So you remember fondly the character Ghost?
Well,
and her backstory and her motivations and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was. It was great.
Cool.
She was a very difficult villain. Well, like the thing I love about that movie is there's a bunch of converging plot lines that all come together.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like a chase movie, sort of like a Midnight Run.
Yeah, I don't know. I
love Walter Goggins in that.
Yes, well, Walter Goggins is amazing. I'll give you that. What's his name? He's got such a great character name in that.
I don't remember.
No, I don't remember either, but it was great.
Larry Fishburne's in that
Oh,
movie,
yes,
kind of
okay,
like
yeah.
I think he
Giant Man.
I think I read like he forgot that he was in the MCU because he's just in like that toss away character.
Yeah.
Who's like friends with Hank Pym.
They did a lot more with his character and Hank Pym in the What If series. Did you ever watch What If?
I did, but I fell off. Like I didn't watch all the episodes.
They're very hit and miss. The latest season I didn't like at all, but they really do like pull those old characters, those characters into a lot of them. But no, yeah, I don't think people are really loving the Ghost and.
Well, who else is on the team?
So yeah, I guess we should say that. So it's like we've said, Yelena.
Oh, U.S. agent.
Yeah, U.S. agent John Walker.
He was my favorite part of the Falcon Winter Soldier TV series.
I thought they did his character pretty dirty in that. Like he had no redeeming qualities by the end of it. So that's why I meant, like, are we going to root for this guy now? Who's kind of a real.
Well,
end up being quite a bit of a loser in that show. But that show was bad.
But I think Wyatt Russell did such a great
Wyatt
job
Russell's
of like
great.
Playing like the golden boy who has like a little bit of adversity and he just completely unravels.
Right.
That was my favorite part, just like seeing him go crazy.
Yes.
And then the fight scene between the three of them is the best part of those series.
Yeah, that show
which is a show that I did not like at all.
It's very bad though. I think that's what it is. I think it's like you got the villain from, like, most people would say the worst Ant-Man movie, or maybe they wouldn't actually. No one liked that third one.
And I wouldn't say she's a villain. She's a misunderstood soul.
Okay, fair enough. And then,
but no, I don't even remember who plays her.
The antagonist. Then, yeah, and then like the antagonist from well-regarded one of the worst TV shows that they've put out.
He said a well-regarded worst TV show.
One of the most regarded. But how do you? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Widely panned,
widely derived. Yes.
Yeah.
And even, like, I know you said that people love David Harbour and everyone liked Yelena, but nobody liked that Black Widow movie, from what I remember, when that came out.
I thought it was okay.
I liked it. It was fine, but I mean, like, nobody holds it up as like, oh, this is great. Like, let's have more of these characters.
I love the family stuff in that.
Yeah, that was the best part of it. To be honest.
And then him playing such a big, Russian character. I don't know. I was really digging it.
He's phrased it pretty broad as well. I was interested. I'm interested to see how it fits in with the rest of these characters. But I mean, you need that. Sometimes you need that character, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with David Harbour. Like, he's never really managed to make it on his own, like in a starring
very true
capacity, but he's a great supporting character.
Yeah, I never did watch his Hellboy movie. Did you see that?
No, I'm so mad we never got the third one.
Yeah.
I'm such a big fan of those first two.
Yeah, and I love Hellboy and I love David Harbour, but I just, like, there was nothing in me that wanted to watch that. And then when I heard it wasn't good, I was like, okay, I'll just never see it ever.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so who we got left in the group? Well, you not mentioned. Oh, Bucky, of course, Bucky.
Yeah.
Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. Who is now
the silver-armed boy.
Who is now a congressman, I guess, even though he's like that a Russian agent.
I hope that he lost because it's.
Oh no! I think he's pretty, like. I think didn't they reveal it?
No, he was running for.
I thought they revealed it in the trailer for this one, but maybe not.
It's just so stupid.
Why have him run and lose? That wouldn't make any sense.
But why is Bucky interested in doing that?
Yeah, he wouldn't be, right? Because maybe he's got forced into it somehow. I don't know.
Being a congressman is a step down from just being a member of the Avengers. So I don't like. No offense to, like, I know there's a few congressmen who listen to this podcast.
Fans, yes, you're not as good as the Avengers.
So no offense, but like, if a congressman has an opportunity to join a presidential cabinet, they jump and they do it.
Yeah.
And like, being a member of cabinet is less prestigious than being in the Avengers.
Well,
so, like,
I guess where would Bucky be though? Like, where was the last time we saw Bucky properly? Was it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah,
I forget how he ended that show.
He ended the show by admitting to his old man best friend that I killed your.
Oh, I remember. That was actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
he was like, I killed your son or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was a good, like.
Yeah.
They got a lot of the emotional beats right.
Yeah, they had a lot. There was a big. I think that's why people hate that show so much, because it had a lot of great ideas and great, like, things it could have done well, but it just failed to mesh them all together.
I think they dropped the ball a bit on Sam's storyline.
Yeah,
like, I like all the elements there. It just wasn't
true.
Executed well. And then, like, the terrorist plot was not good.
that was the main thing, I feel like. And
And
I feel like that was retooled heavily during like whatever it was, the strikes or COVID or whatever
like
ruined that one.
him doing a speech about how like calling these people terrorists is not helpful. I'm like, well, they keep murdering people. Like, anyways, so what are your expectations coming into this movie?
Well, it's funny actually because like pulling the curtain back a bit on our schedule here, we are watching this on Sunday, Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you. We were supposed to see this on Thursday, and my expectations were pretty low for this one because, like I said, I don't think anyone is clamoring for a Thunderbolts movie with especially with this cast of characters that I mean I'm not super excited about, apart from a couple of them. So I was like, especially after the Captain America movie was a bit of a damp squib, and it wasn't terrible. It's like they haven't really been putting out top tier Marvel for a while, so I was a bit like, okay, I'll go and see this one. It's not the one I'm excited about. I'm excited about Fantastic Four and Doomsday coming up, but we'll see this one, see what's going on. But then I saw a couple of little things online about it over the past couple of days, like about how it's actually pretty good, like surprisingly good, like one of the best they've done for a while.
Yeah, like I think I saw like a pretty good critics and audience score, which has been rare lately for the Marvel stuff.
So it's like Marvel getting back to its best, maybe. I'm not trying to jinx it. So I feel like if I'd seen it on Thursday, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot better because my expectations would have been very low. So now my expectations are quite a bit higher. So now I'm worried that I'm just going to be expecting it to be better than it is. But I'm expecting it to be a good movie. It's like a good team up movie. If it's as good as like a Guardians, then I think that's going to be like the vibe it's going for.
As good of a guard.
I mean, it's not going to be as. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. If it's like I meant to say if it's going for that kind of similar Guardians feel. If it can get anywhere close to like half as good as Guardians, then I'll be happy.
Half as good, yeah, for sure. Like if this is a solid B, I think that's just a sigh of relief.
Yeah, right. They need it. They definitely need it.
Has a new phase of Marvel started, like officially with these ones?
I was supposed to. I was gonna look that up.
I've been confused by the phases lately.
Maybe I'll look that up when we get there. We can touch on that again because I'm a bit confused of the phases, and I feel like that might be coming back to bite him a bit now because it used to be very easily set of like phase 1, 2, 3, and then we're going and there's this, and now it's like but 5 kind of happened with this movie, and it's like when there's no real like changes where it's easy to say like phase 1 was all the introductory movies, like phase 2 was all the sequels, and then phase 3 was this. It's like no, it's kind of now it's just like just a big group of movies.
Yeah, well, but it does seem like the slate is being cleaned a little bit. Like we have a Thunderbolts and we have a Fantastic Four, both of which I'm just kind of feeling are going to be really good.
Oh yeah,
and then we have the new Avengers movie,
the Doomsday, right?
So I feel like this might be the start of a good course correction.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for too. And like they did announce that I think pretty much all these Thunderbolts characters, except for Taskmaster, we didn't talk about Taskmaster. Taskmaster.
Who is Taskmaster?
So she was.
Remind me.
Well, she was the antagonist in the Black Widow movie.
Okay.
And everybody hated it because Taskmaster was a beloved character, and they kind of retconned it a bit to make her make it a woman, which obviously is going to piss people off, and B made it like she was like one of the Black Widow assets, but had been like co-opted into this Taskmaster who's like she was like brainwashed to become this bad guy. So she was a brainwashed villain, basically Bucky. Bucky like
okay. And that really goes against the.
I'm not going to say I'm a big Taskmaster. How can't I say Taskmaster?
I don't know. Just take your time.
Taskmaster.
You're rushing it.
Taskmaster. Anyway, I'm not a huge Taskmaster. I'm not even fucking going to say it anymore. I'm
just
not
say TM fan.
I'm not a huge fan of that character. But from what I understand, yeah, they made some change. They made some big changes from the comic sort of lore, and people did not like that. And from what I've seen of the marketing and the announcements for Doomsday, I don't think she's making it very far through this movie. I think she's going to get bumped off pretty quickly.
Okay.
I don't think...
I'm having a hard time even remembering.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my assumption is she's going to be like, oh, she's here too. Oh, no, she's dead. Let's move on.
Yeah, the main villain I remember from Black Widow is Ray Winston.
Yeah, he was like the guy who ran So Taskmaster was kind of like
You nailed it, man.
right. I was really
you
trying.
nailed it.
I was
Do
really
not
trying.
ever say that name again. You're not going to top that.
I'll just keep cutting out and just paste it
Just
over.
paste it in there.
I've got a plate now. I'm good. Taskmaster. Yeah. So she was like his like private bodyguard assassin type person. So
Okay, yeah. Now I'm remembering.
yeah, I can't remember that movie. Maybe should have done some pre-watching for this, but that's too many movies that I'm not that interested in watching.
In a team-up movie like this, there's a lot of homework to do.
I'm not watching Falcon the Winter Soldier and all those movies.
No.
But you know what? It's the worst way to spend your day, I suppose, but I was too busy watching Superman.
That's a good segue. So
yeah, okay, let's move off this now.
So
I'm excited.
Expectations are high from both of us. Yeah,
I think I'm a bit more of a Marvel enthusiast than you are, but
you're more of a Marvel fan, and you're more forgiving of their faults.
Yes, that's very true. I do give him a huge break on stuff. Definitely. I mean, I loved Thor: Love and Thunder. So
you had Deadpool versus Wolverine in your top 10 movies of last year.
I loved that.
I gave that movie 4 stars, so I liked it as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes, 4 stars is pretty good, right?
4 out of 5.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, surprised he was in your top 10. But that's just you, right?
Yeah, I love that stuff. It's just in my wheelhouse. So.
All right,
let's move on then.
If you are new to the pod or return to the pod and just need a reminder, Pete and I do these ongoing projects, and to line up with James Gunn's Superman Legacy, we're starting a project where we are listening to we're watching through every single.
Gonna listen and watch.
Yeah. Every single live action Superman movie.
Yes.
Starting with the serials from 1948.
Yeah, not technically a movie, but whatever. we go by our own rules.
Like they're played in cinemas, right?
Yeah,
so
I don't think it counts as a it's not a feature.
It's a short film serial.
Yeah.
So they would put these at they all run for about 20 minutes or so, 16 to 20 minutes. They would put these at the beginning of,
the matinee movie.
The matinee movie or whatever. You'd go in and you'd watch, and then they all end on some kind of cliffhanger saying, come back next week to see how Superman got out of this jam.
Yeah, I kind of love that, I'm not going to lie.
Well, I've seen that parodied so many times. This is my first time actually going through and watching it.
I know what you mean, yeah. But, yeah, so...
So these star Kirk Allyn as Clark Kent /
first live action Superman ever, right? Kirk Allyn.
Yeah. Oh, this is the OG, and it's establishing some obviously feeding off the comics or whatever, right? But it's establishing some tropes of what Superman's going to be like on the silver screen.
Yeah, and, basically.
You do see a lot kind of carried through. I'm not a Superman expert or whatever to know what had originated in those movies versus what originated in the comics, but at least some stylistic choices kind of make it through the whole way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm the same. I don't have a wealth of knowledge on the Superman history of that era, but I think it was kind of the popularity for the comics and also the stuff that they were doing with the Fleischer animation and the serials and whatnot. I think they kind of both paralleled into. They took a parallel path into the consciousness, should we say? So I think there was certain things that the book took from the live action stuff and vice versa. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know what originated in the live action stuff that carried over. But I think, like you say, there's definitely certain things that definitely they cemented for a future installment, should we say?
Yeah. And we're doing a little bit of background research on this to make sure we got our Superman stuff all in order. And you already mentioned the cartoons and stuff, which had started by the early 40s already.
Right.
Superman kind of just took off immediately as a popular character.
Yeah.
And they were trying to make a Superman movie for years and years before this even.
Yeah, there's some stuff. I think they were just really worried about trying to do that on screen.
Yes,
which is probably fair. I mean,
well, they were not wholly successful on this.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, trying to make a man flying on screen in the in the 1940s is
they just gave up.
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
They basically did. Yeah.
And I think it was pretty clever how they incorporated the cartoon elements into
You
this.
know what? Like I was reading about that, and like, so yeah. So I guess we should explain for those who haven't seen. Rather than try and show an actual man flying, they opted to just do like a hard cut
He
into,
would
or
go
like,
behind a
oh yeah,
car.
overlay the basically the animated, like the
Yeah,
cartoon version of
the
Superman.
same style.
Yeah, yeah. But so it would like transition from the cartoon into Superman, and I found it interesting because to your point, they would always be like, "Oh, he's behind a car," and then he would just run around the car as a human. But only when he was landing, when he was taking off, they always did like a transition into it.
Yeah.
And I was
The
reading,
transitions are
yeah,
pretty
and I
good.
was reading into that. He said that like they found a way to do the transitions of him taking off because it was just him like jumping, and then he could go into the. But they said they couldn't. They were unable to make it look. To make it work for when he was landing, they just
Yeah.
couldn't make it work well. So they just always had him land behind like a boulder or a car or something, and then run out the other side.
Well, it
Yeah, I
probably
just
like
found it. I found that charming, though. To be
they
honest,
probably could have figured it out, but it was like such a technical
yeah, it was
challenge
like
that
too
it
much
was just
effort.
easier to
Yeah,
just not have to worry about it.
yeah, because I think they had also planned to show like close-ups of him flying, like like just have him on wire in a wind machine, and
Yeah.
in in the first season of this, the first serial they did, um, it didn't work, so they just scrapped the whole thing. But then in the second serial, where it was Atom Man versus Superman. They actually did start using that, but it looked kind of lame, to be honest. They figured out how to do it where they just had him stand up and put his arms up in the air, and then they just turned the camera like 90 degrees. So he
Yeah.
was actually stood up straight, but it made it look like he was flying. But it just looked weird. Like his arms were like out in front of him versus straight up. It was like didn't work well for me, but yeah.
No, not really.
But I kind of liked it, to be honest.
It was charming. Like,
Yeah,
and
like at
I don't
first
want
I
to.
was like, "Oh, that's a choice," but like then you're just like, "Oh no, it's just part of the charm of this thing."
Well, the whole first serial, like, and I don't want to be patronizing because there are like things that are well done with it as well, but
Yeah.
like it is just like a slice of that time
Oh,
period,
definitely,
right?
definitely.
Like you can imagine going to the matinee and just like seeing this and going like, oh man, like
Yeah.
I got to see how does Superman get
Yeah.
out of this jam this
Yeah,
week
and
here.
like it was shot as a serial to show before a matinee show. Like it's not like
Yeah.
they didn't have a huge budget or a bunch of like effort and time going into it. To be honest, it was just like let's just do it.
Yeah, like
And bearing that in mind, I thought they did a pretty good job. To be honest.
and like this is clearly just like a TV show before TV
Yes.
was a thing,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like there was not a format to do this in a shorter, and like you saw this a lot. Like there's a lot of these types of shorts.
Mhm. Yeah.
But like this, just like the first superhero one, and
Right.
it's so obvious to do one for a superhero, right?
Yeah.
But like
Yep.
it just had never happened before.
No, no. And I haven't seen any other. I know they I think they did like a Batman one, and I think they did like a Captain Marvel one or something.
Well, it's so easy to do.
Yeah, but
like just
I've never seen any. Like it's
no.
not something I've ever gone back and watched. But
When
like I
we
was watching it this weekend, and like my wife was like, "Do you actually enjoy this?" Because it's like I was like binge watching like 15 episodes or whatever of this like, "Hey, come back next week for the flooding installment."
Well,
and I was like, you know what? I actually do quite enjoy this. It's pretty fun.
my favorite was when Lois Lane was in a car that was burning up. And then by the time he got there, he went, "Oh, there's no one in this car." Like, and that's how we saved.
Yeah, there's the cliffhangers were done like it's so funny. It's like they just show Lois Lane in a car, then exploding, and then they're like, you watch the next episode. It's like, oh no, there was another 10 minutes before between those cuts that you saw of when Superman just sort of sauntered up and opened the door. It was what I did notice about it is like obviously it was very difficult for them to show any of Superman's powers on like in this show. Like even the flying, yes, okay, that's difficult to do.
The X-ray vision's the only one that they kind of nail.
Well, I
the
mean,
thing. Like
they don't. Do they nail it? Because it made me laugh every time they did it. And it was like, once again, Superman uses his X-ray vision, and he just
it's
does
kind
a
of funny
close up on his eyes, and he looks like he's taking a shit.
They have to explain to the audience each time what's happening
because they might be a new audience.
Yeah, exactly. Once again,
here we go again. And I do love the introduction of stuff like that. They're like the X-ray vision and the up, and away. like the first few episodes, every time he flies, he would say up, and away, and fly off.
It's just like, it's so funny because when he's running around in the Superman cape, he looks so like silly. Such a dink.
It looks so silly.
He's just like running around. But I will say, I think Kirk Allyn might be the best Clark Kent.
You know what? That you read my mind. That was the one thing I was just about to ask you because I wanted to, because I think that's one of the things I really want to focus on in our in this project we're doing on the Superman stuff is like really digging into like the performances, because I'm really interested to see what David Cornsweet's going to do, because like there's been so many different versions of Superman, but it's also such an iconic character that there's not really much you can do with it. You can't take it too far outside or people will reject it. So yeah, I really was interested to know what you thought of Kirk Alyn's portrayal of Superman and Clark Kent. But I agree. I think his Clark Kent was really good.
His Superman is just like too grinny.
Yeah, he's just like goofy, right?
He's just like, hey, look at me, aren't I impressive?
Yeah, he was like a guy really excited to be pretending to be Superman.
Exactly. Well, but the first scene where there's adult Clark Kent,
right.
He's sitting down at a table with his parents at the farmhouse.
Right.
And then I thought like, oh, that's probably like their accountant or something. And I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for Clark Kent to come down the stairs. And I'm like, oh wait, that's Clark Kent. I'm like, oh, this is really good. Like I'm waiting for Clark Kent to show up, and I didn't even clock that this guy was supposed to be him.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But like he's not playing him like overly dorky either. Like
no, he's a bit of a shit disturber.
He's a bit of he's like a sneaky reporter kind of thing. Like Lois Lane's always mad that he's getting the scoops or whatever. So it is.
No, I really did like his Clark Kent there for all the reasons you just said. But you could tell that he especially was having so much fun doing it.
Yeah,
like he's like you say, he's just always got a goofy grin on his face, pretty much no matter what's happening. The other thing I loved about the old series is like how many times people just got punched in the face. Like poor Jimmy Olsen, I think gets punched in the face every episode.
He gets knocked out a lot. Just like, that's pretty bad for your brain.
Yeah, so like people should be worried about poor Jimmy. He's just getting smashed. He's got some CTE going on for sure.
Yeah. So is the spider lady, like, is she recurring?
I looked that up because I don't know anything about a spider lady in Superman lore, and I don't think she really is. I think that was a creation for the serial, and I don't think she ever came back.
It was a lot of time to spend on a villain that was not interesting.
Yeah, well, I kind of was trying to figure out why they would have done that, and I think what I landed on was that they just wanted like a femme fatale in it, so they could put like a woman in there. It's because there was only Lois in there, really. It was a bit of a sausage fest.
Yeah.
So it's like
pretty much.
So it's like you can't have like all these henchmen and just Superman just fighting all the time. Like people need to see some like good looking people. No offense to those guys.
For the second serial, which is called Atom Man.
Atom Man versus Superman.
Have you ever heard of Lex Luthor being called Atom Man before?
No, I have not. And I don't really know why they even really did that.
What did you think of the Lex Luthor in this one?
I really like the Lex Luthor in this one. Actually, I thought he did a great job, and I think I actually read that they did take his take and like have it basically translate to the comics, and like that's how like all through like the 60s that was the comics. Lex Luthor was like basically based off of his portrayal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he did a really great job. Sadly, I found the second serial a bit more boring than the first one.
Yeah, there was a lot of nothing going on, and it looked pretty cheap.
Yeah,
compared to the first one, which already was a little cheap.
Like we said, like I didn't care about the Spider Woman, and I thought like Luthor was really good. So, but I think that they just kind of ran out of steam and didn't really know what to do.
Well, this one was more of like one adventure through line, whereas like the first one was a little more episodic, which I think worked better.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, like by the time I was watching the second serial, I was thinking, I sort of got it. Like I got the flavor of this whole thing. Like
I was paying less attention.
I don't need to watch 15 hours of this, but I did.
It was more playing in the background for sure. I was a bit like, you know what I did start to really love about it though, how it obviously would reuse as much footage as it could. So the shot of him going into the broom cupboard in the Daily Planet to change into Superman.
Yeah.
They use that like in every episode, the same shot.
Oh.
The one where he comes into Superman and does the goofy smile and then goes back in a Clark Kent. I just love that so much. I did it so often.
There were a couple things from the first serial I actually forgot to mention. Like the one thing is related to that, where he finds out he's allergic to kryptonite.
Oh god.
For the first time. He's talking to the professor, and he's like, do me a favor, turn the lights off. I have something to show you. And so the guy turns the lights off. The lights are off for a good 30 seconds. And then he's like, okay, turn the lights on. And he's just dressed as Superman. And then the guy's like, I don't believe you're Superman. Prove it to me.
There's a lot.
It's just so lame.
There's a lot of lame stuff in it, but
a lot of just wasting time, I think, too.
Yeah, they got to fill the time for sure, right? Yeah, a lot of just like characters talking to each other, and the acting. I know it was like we were saying, it's a different era, it's a different time, it's for its piece, but some of the acting I was a bit like, oh man, You could see them waiting for their cue. I'm going to say my line now. It's like, oh man, okay.
But the other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm actually going to put a short video on YouTube and link to this episode description because this scene in particular, I think is like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
The one you said.
The one I sent to you. So it's of like an 18-year-old Clark Kent, and he's talking to his parents at their farmhouse.
Right.
And he says, you know, I think when I get to the big city, there shouldn't be anyone who knows that Clark Kent and Superman are the same person. And then his parents are just like slowly nodding. Then it immediately dissolves to Clark outside of his family home with his like suitcases walking away. And then the narrator says, shortly after that, Clark's foster parents passed away.
So it's like, don't worry about them anymore.
And like maybe hinting that Clark killed his parents.
Oh, I didn't take that from
secret.
That's funny.
I just think it's so funny.
Like no one should know how Clark Kent, and then they died.
So since I've been watching that, my wife and I have just been saying to each other, shortly after that, Clark's foster parents passed away. Like, but it is just like a breezing, like, you know, we're not going to worry about these two anymore.
They were only there for the day, so no more scenes of that. Yeah, so, that was pretty funny. But just stuff like that would like, yeah, that's fine. That'll work. We'll just move on.
Well, yeah, let's keep this moving. We don't want to have too big of a recurring cast.
What was your opinion on the other cast in that? Like, I forget her name now, who played Lois. Is it Noelle, somebody?
Yeah, so I'm not going to remember any of the actors' names if you want to look that up. But I think the Lois Lane...
Real quick, Vamp, Trev.
I think the Lois Lane was pretty good. I think she was a little bit too, like, whiny about, like, losing stories to Clark. Yeah. I think it's not like, but I did like how strong-willed she was towards all the other characters. Just like
Noelle Neal,
she was just complaining too much sometimes. I think.
Yeah, I did.
But I liked her. I liked the job she was doing.
Yeah, I did like her take, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It was kind of thankless, a lot of the stuff she was doing. But I did kind of like her, and I think I liked her more, and we'll get into it when we get into the George Reeves stuff, because I didn't like the Lois Lane in that as much, and then I found out that in the TV show they brought Noelle Neal back.
Yeah, so the original Lois Lane was just there for the first season basically, and then they replaced her, which is good because she is better.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think Jimmy Olsen is perfect.
Yeah, he's great.
I think he's perfect.
They just got someone who looked exactly like Jimmy Olsen should.
Yeah.
I think he was in the Little Rascals. I looked it up. He was like,
oh, he definitely seems like a Little Rascal.
He was one of the OG Little Rascals.
Like he stuck his eye in a tailpipe and got like a bunch of exhaust on his face.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Perry White was also pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to do Perry White wrong. You just need an angry white guy. Although I don't know why they have the reoccurring gag where he has no light for his cigar. Did you know? Like they keep that going so long, and I'm like, what? And then right at the end of the second serial, when he actually gets to light his cigar, and that's how it like ends. I was like, that's pretty funny. I feel like they just like in the first time they did it, he couldn't find the match he was supposed to have, and then they just go, oh, that was funny. Let's just do that every time, because it was like there was no reason for him to do it. Every time he couldn't light a cigar, and they made a point of showing it.
The crew was just loving it every time he did it. So like,
he's done it again.
Do it again.
He's not got a match. It's like, why do we care?
All right, we'll just have a few minutes left. We should talk about the Perry White, or sorry, the George Reeves version. Yes. So this is like kind of what people think of when they think of like, you know, golden age live action Superman. George Reeves.
Yeah, he was the Superman for a huge generation, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much, and no relation to Christopher Reeves. Like a lot of people think that they are related, but it's just a coincidence.
Weird coincidence, but there you go.
Yeah, I like maybe influenced the casting decision.
How do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Well, like maybe just even subconsciously.
Maybe like he must be good. He's got the same name.
But I think his Superman is very good. I would say.
Yes, I agree. I like his Superman, although way more aggro. From what I saw, I only watched the movie. Like we didn't get into the TV
just like the
show
58-minute.
which
technically counting
I've got to
say
I thought was very bad, like terrible.
Interesting. Okay, well I
did not like it.
I didn't mind it.
It was like, but it wasn't a Superman movie. It just seemed like any sci-fi movie about mole men coming up from the ground. Like Superman was barely in it, which I get they didn't have much budget for it. But it was just like barely Superman in it, and then when he did show up, he was just like aggro, yelling at everybody, but not actually doing anything.
Yeah, you're right that it is kind of just Superman plopped into like a B sci-fi movie, and like you do get the impression that people were very used to doing those kind of sci-fi movies all the time.
Yeah.
But no, like
I just didn't like it.
I think like they did all like the special effects around Superman like a much better than the
Oh,
serials.
definitely improvement on
They
the
did him
effects for
taking
sure.
off really well.
Yes,
I
the
would
flying
think.
stuff, there was a huge improvement.
And
I
like
will give him that.
they had like pretty innovative techniques where like the camera was just operating as like Superman's POV, which I think was a clever way to do it.
Yeah, they did do that.
Like obviously like the bullets.
I think a lot of that was just due to budget as well. There was a lot of like people looking up and going, "Look at Superman flying," and like not showing it.
I get your point that it's not really quite as focused on Superman as you would like it to be.
Well, especially because it was like, this is George Reeves' introduction, and like this is the Superman that everyone knows. And I was like, he does nothing. He just yells at people as Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And I really didn't like his Clark Kent.
Yeah, his Clark Kent isn't as good as Kirk Allyn's.
And it's
for sure.
It is crazy because, and I did watch a couple of episodes of the show. I wanted to see what the first episode of the show was like, which was actually pretty good. They basically did the first episode of the first serial that Kirk Allyn did, where they do the whole Krypton Jor-El thing again.
Oh, really? Okay. You know what? I'm gonna have to watch that.
And so I watched that, and that was actually really good. But then they do the whole thing where it's like, I'm gonna be pretend to be mild mannered Clark Kent, and I'm like, I don't think this guy knows what mild mannered means, because he's not mild mannered. He's like aggro.
It's mild mannered by early 50s standards, where you're accusing everyone around you of being a communist.
He calls them Nazi stormtroopers. Well, that's Superman that said that, actually. But...
Well, this is very much like a Cold War movie.
Yeah. But no, I didn't. The movie I did not like, and I didn't like his portrayal of Clark Kent. So I was a bit like, and then I was like, am I just being unfair because I've watched so much Kirk Allyn like over this weekend? I've seen like maybe 10 hours of his Superman, and now I'm just watching 10 minutes of George Reeves, and I'm like, nah, I'm not liking it as much.
Okay. But I think it was fine. I was just like, I was more forgiving. Like especially after the second serial, which I don't think is very good. This one had better production value.
You know what? And like I should say, like I'm not saying I don't like him, because I definitely think there's a huge improvement in acting all across the board in the George Reeves stuff. Like, he's obviously a much better actor than Kirk Allyn.
Yeah.
I just didn't like his portrayal as much as Clark Kent. And honestly, I don't even blame him. That's why I wanted to watch more of the TV stuff, because I think it was that movie in particular, I think just didn't show off.
I would love to watch more of the TV, for sure.
6 seasons, right? They did 6 seasons of that show.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
People were hungry for content back then. There were only like 3 networks or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, so Pete and I, for the next couple months, we're going to be talking all Superman. Mm-hmm. Next week, we're going to go through, or we're going to start going through the Christopher Reeves movies.
I'm excited for that. That was my Superman. My Superman has always been Chris Reeves.
Well, he was my Superman too, so...
He was our Superman.
Okay, there we go.
Yes.
He's
enough
Superman to share.
Like, I'd never seen anything pre-Chris Reeve until this week.
Yeah, I think this is what's great about these kind of projects, filling in blind spots.
Exactly,
like that. I would definitely recommend people at least check out a couple of the serials and watch... maybe listen to Pete. Don't watch the George Reeves movie, but check in for the TV show. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the TV show, so I'm excited to visit that.
I think they did cut the movie into 2 episodes to end out the first season.
Well, I was gonna say, like, it's actually like kind of a very modern, like, James Gunn style approach to it, like having movies lead into the TV shows and vice versa. It's kind of interesting that happened right at the beginning.
Interesting, like, proof of concept, right? Like, look, see, this does work. Give us a season, you shit.
Anyway, so Pete and I have arrived at the movie theater. If you're new to the podcast, we're going to go inside and watch Thunderbolts, then come back, give you a spoiler-free reaction to the movie before giving you plenty of warning before heading into spoiler talk.
Yes, and we'll give lots of warning on this one, because I'm assuming that I'm assuming.
Ed Sullivan?
I'm assuming. I've got a bit of a call, right? I can't say Taskmaster and I can't say assuming, so give me a break. But I'm assuming there's going to be a whole lot. Well, maybe not a whole lot, but at least a couple of post-credit stings here setting up Doomsday stuff. So, or even Fantastic Four stuff. So I'm pretty psyched for that. But we won't ruin any of that. We'll give you plenty of warning before we get into any of that stuff.
We'll let you know how this compares to the Kirk Allyn Superman stuff.
Yes,
because the bookends, beginning and end of Superman or superhero movies.
Yes, because this is the last one that's ever made.
This is interesting podcasting. All right, everyone, wish us luck.
Okay, don't go anywhere, guys. Welcome back, everyone. Just seen the Thunderbolts Asterix, and we're already on the road.
And we
home.
found out the reason why it's called that.
Yes, which we'll go into in spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, just a reminder, we're not going to spoil anything. Take that stuff pretty seriously.
Yes. Do not fear. You'll have plenty of warning. But I feel like it might be tricky to talk about this one without getting too much into spoilers. But it's hard to say what's a spoiler and what isn't, because I feel like a lot of the stuff they spoiled a little bit in the marketing for this one.
Well, I think trailer's safe. Like anything that was in the trailer, we can talk about.
Sure.
So that one like big new character was
Bob, right?
Okay, wait, I was gonna try to dance around it.
I think they mentioned it. Yeah, they said they did have Bob in the trailer.
Okay, well there you go.
And they played up to it like, oh, Bob. Yeah.
Well, let's not dance around it though. Like, how did you feel about this movie?
I liked it. I think I was bang on when I said that if I had gone into Thursday without my expectations heightened, I would have loved it a lot. But my expectations were probably a little bit too high. But in saying that, I still really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really, really well done. I head and shoulders above the Captain America, the last Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Which they do mention a couple of times in this movie. But they sort of stay clear of that one a little bit. But no, I thought all the things that I sort of said going in, like how I didn't really care much about a lot of these characters. Like I think they did a really great job of building that team up, and sort of, yes, playing on the fact that they are a bit shit and like the losers, and they're not like super great at working in the team or as people in general. I think they did a real great job of sort of building that up and like giving them something to do that was kind of hadn't seen a million times before. But no, it worked well for me. I thought some of the characters I think were a bit underserved, but I think that's sort of it's always going to work with a group like that.
I think Ghost mainly.
Yeah, even Bucky as well, though. I think Bucky he really took a back seat. I think he was kind of just there for a lot of time. I mean, if you can have Bucky in your movie, then I'm all for putting Bucky in your movie. So not going to be too upset about that. But no, it was very much Florence Pugh, Yelena movie for me, which I'm not against because I like that character and I like Florence Pugh. So,
well, the problem I've had with a lot of these Marvel movies lately is they have this fat to them,
right?
Like a lot of like excess baggage, and this one, like I guess the main cast of this movie is made up of excess baggage from other stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the movie itself is very streamlined.
Yeah, I mean, it ticks along, right? That you say it doesn't sag. I don't think it really sags at all for me.
Like, there's not a lot of like bullshit in the margins that you have to worry about.
Right, fair.
Because, Captain America, then a bunch of the other recent projects, they're just weighed down by all this extra stuff.
Yeah, unnecessary stuff.
But this one, it does seem like the first like real streamlined movie in a long time that like sort of just works by itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good show.
Like, obviously you need to have watched the other movies.
Yeah.
But I feel like
didn't.
Someone could jump in and understand the dynamics at play.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you need to have seen Black Widow to understand, Yelena and the Red Guardians whole deal.
Yeah, they do a good job of explaining a lot of that backstory again as well without being overbearing with it.
Well, like it carries an emotional truth to it. Like, you don't need to know that that's like a pretend dad that she had that
right.
For some missions or whatever. It just seems like, he's a shitty dad. They have a complicated relationship.
Yeah,
like, that's all you need to know.
That's basically it, right? Yeah.
And so I enjoyed this one a lot. I think it really benefited from having a small contained story in the first half of it. Like they're almost just stuck in one location for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I think is a positive because it kind of just forces them to, interact with each other without like all this extra stuff going on.
Yep. Yeah.
And like some some good initial fights between people who are eventually on the same team. Like I don't
Yeah,
think that's something.
you always have to do that, right? It's kind of a trope at this point. It's like first they're gonna fight before they team up.
Yeah, like not as good as in the Avengers,
Well, yeah,
obviously, but like this one was pretty good.
well, and they're kind of limited as well. It's like they even make a joke of it in the movie. It's like they all shoot,
They're all sort of
they all
samesies.
shoot and punch. Like that's all we do. It's
Yeah.
like so there's not so there's you can't really do anything too crazy in terms of fights, but they do have a little bit of interesting things like individually that they kind of work in, which is nice. But yeah, the action scenes I thought were really well done.
Yeah, like the fact that the core team doesn't have any like crazy powers
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
it more of like a traditional action movie.
true. Yeah, yeah. And I like the fact that like they're not perfect at stuff. Like they do stuff that doesn't necessarily work out for them the way they want all the time, and they just
Yeah.
kind of it's a bit more like muddling through versus like an Avengers movie, which would be like everything's
Where they're
working
all
super well.
super
We're all
competent.
super
Yeah.
competent and just like amazing at everything. But just coming up against adversity, this is more like, oh no, we're just kind of trying to figure this stuff out and
Yeah.
just try not to die mostly.
This movie, I'm trying to think of a Marvel movie that is more emotional than this one.
Yes, surprisingly so, I thought as well. And
I wasn't
it goes to
expecting it,
some
but
dark places and like really has some stuff to say about things that I wasn't really expecting.
so how did all that land for you?
It landed really well, to be honest with you. Like, um, there's it's hard to talk about without going too much into spoilers, but I thought it worked really well for me, and it did a great job, like I say, of showing stuff that I hadn't necessarily seen before, especially in Marvel stuff. Like away from the big, let's have massive CGI fuckathon battles and spaceships in space and all this kind of stuff like you would expect with like an
Yeah.
Avengers movie. Like this was a different type of team up movie, and it didn't go to those things, and I think it was all the better for it. I thought it was a breath of fresh air for Marvel, at least.
Well, how many Marvel movies is this now?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah, we're over 30, right?
I think so, or around there.
I think this movie did a great job of showing the kind of emotional baggage slash trauma that people like this
Yes,
would have
exactly right.
after that time. Like, it's not a spoiler to say, like, the movie starts off with Yelena, who
Yeah,
is Black Widow's sister.
yeah, yeah,
It starts with her looking over the side of a building and then just dropping,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
and turns out she has a parachute, but that kind of
Yes.
sets the tone for the whole
Yeah,
movie.
it's like these characters are not doing well.
Yeah.
It's like mentally and it's situationally, like they're struggling with dealing with what they've done and the positions they're in their lives, which yeah, you would be for sure, right? Like you've
Well,
done some stuff that you wish you hadn't.
one, Yelena is also talking a lot about like how she feels like she doesn't have a purpose and she wants
Yeah.
to find meaning in the work that she's doing.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think that this movie can kind of like relate emotionally to its audience in the way that like
Right.
a lot of these movies haven't been doing.
True. I thought it was a little bit meta with some of that stuff as well. It's like Marvel. We don't really know what to do with these characters because they're kind of like screwed up and they like nobody really likes them that much, and
Yeah.
they're not R-rated. Like it's a bit like that, but in the movie form. So it's like, How do we make people care about these guys, or give them a purpose, or help them even?
Well, I do think like this movie, similar to Guardians, like you were saying on the way
Oh
in,
yes, yes.
they turn the fact that it's like a B tier,
Right.
like a
Yeah.
bunch of people that, mainstream audiences haven't heard of,
Yep.
turns that into a strength.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're gonna make you care about these people that you don't even really know or care about right now.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like you say though, I think it's because you can relate to them more. They're not like the untouchable hero gods that are like in the Avengers. It's like no, they're just like they're people with flaws and like trying to do their best and struggling greatly, just like everybody does. I mean, yeah, they know cool. They know some of them are super soldiers and have superpowers and stuff, but they're not like god tier powers.
I will say like maybe some people might walk away with like, less enthusiasm because there's not the same sort of, spectacle and clash between two god tier
Yeah,
level
yeah,
superheroes. So the solution that they have to the final battle is really unique
Yes,
in Marvel
yes.
movies.
Yeah.
And yet that I think that's as much as I should say.
Yeah,
But
it's hard, right? It's hard. You don't want to spoil too much, but no, I say that's what I agree. It's not like a big. It's not two CGI superheroes like throwing stuff at each other and punching like flying around in the sky.
yeah. So I'd say like if you were maybe thinking about waiting out this movie, just watching it on Disney Plus or something, I would say go to the theater for this one.
Yeah,
At the very
sure.
least, vote with your wallet to tell
Yeah,
Marvel
yeah.
that you like these kind of human stories.
Yep, very much so.
And I think it still is enhanced by the theater experience
Definitely,
because
definitely.
like that emotion can carry a lot of weight when you're watching with an audience.
Yeah, and it does make me excited, like you said on the way here. I think like this is like them like starting afresh and doing and like sort of course correcting for where they want to go. But
Yeah.
after a bit of a bumpy ride for the last few years. But no,
Well,
like I'm happy with how this turned out and where it seems to be going for the future.
what seems like the first time since phase 3 where there's really a good sense of like at the same time this movie has a clear vision of what it wants to do and there's a clear vision of how this fits into the larger like strategy of the whole property.
Right.
Whereas like the last 2 phases, or maybe I'm getting lost in how many phases there've been, really just seem like it's trying to fit into a larger narrative, but it's forgetting to make like
Right.
the movies themselves
Yes.
like self-sufficient in that same sort of way.
Exactly. Yeah. Make a good movie first and then worry about tying it in.
Yeah.
Which was a big issue that DC had when and Sony have had when trying to build like a universe. It's like
Yeah.
you got to remember to make actual good movies first and worry about the universe building secondary.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I think Marvel even have been losing focus on that. But I think on it also as well, I think they've just not had a focused plan. I mean, they probably tell you they have, but obviously there's stuff with Kang stuff and retooling what the Avengers movie is, and it just
Yeah.
feels a bit more like they've been moving stuff around and sort of retconning some stuff. There's some stuff in this movie we can talk about where I'm like, they have to try and explain stuff away, which I feel like they've done well, but you can tell it's like, oh yeah, we were planning for that, but now we're gonna go backtrack on that and, and talk about like moving.
Okay.
That's what I mean about a course correction. It's like
I'm interested to know what
I
exactly
mean
you're
nothing.
talking
Yeah,
about.
there's
But
nothing crazy, but there's just a couple of things that made me laugh.
so I just want to plug that we're still running our Letterbox contest. We're giving away a free subscription to Letterbox Patron. So it's the 4th contest we've had.
Is it? We've already done 4.
Oh
Wow.
yeah,
We're so generous, man.
rewarding people with rewarding movie lovers with a way to love movies more.
Exactly. And it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to enter.
Cost nothing. So before we drop into spoilers, just make sure to follow us and let us know how you like this movie. You can reach us at firstlookfinalwordpod@gmail.com, or we're on Letterboxd at firstlookfinalw.
There you go. Check us out on there. See all of let's be honest, Trevor's very well written reviews.
Some of them are pretty good. Like some of them are okay. I
do say so myself.
I did the Harry Potter ones and I kind of phoned it in a little bit. But I'm watching those like 3 times a day now. Where my kids are all into Harry
it's
Potter.
hard to review
so.
something that your kid makes you watch 100 times. I get
Well,
it.
I like the movies a lot, but
Yeah, I mean some more than others, but maybe we'll do a Harry Potter thing next at some point.
And we're talking Superman for the next couple
Yes.
months. So join us next week. We're going to be talking about Superman 1978.
It's the movie, I guess it was marketed at, but I don't
Superman the motion
think it's
picture.
a motion picture.
I think it's still just called Superman.
Yeah, I think technically it's Superman, but I think in the marketing they called it the movie.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Right? Because it was the movie.
And then
Anyway.
what's on the dock for next week as the main feature?
Great question.
Let's just insert it in here.
It is, Trevor, obviously. Fight or flight. Oh, I can't wait for that one. Really looking forward to it.
It's going to be great. I love the star of that movie and the co-stars.
Yes, and also insert name of director here.
All right, so spoilers, Pete?
Sure, let's get into spoilers. All right, you've been warned. Drop off.
Okay.
Right, so spoilers. Where to go with spoilers? I guess we forgot to mention that people should stay for the credits, but we did that beforehand, so that's fine.
Well, and it's a Marvel movie. Everybody knows that.
I thought they did a great thing this time around because, like, typically, like the last the mid-credit scenes have kind of been like something that they seem like, oh, we have to do this, and we'll just like put something in. And they've been doing like the ones right at the end of the credits have just been kind of like a little funny gag, which they kind of flipped it here and did the funny gag
It's
right
a way
away.
better like
Yeah,
because
then,
you
like,
feel like
have a reason to stay, right?
you feel ripped off if like I stayed to watch,
Yeah, something nuts.
them talk to somebody else in that prison. Like what fucking happened the last Captain? Those are the
Yeah.
worst end credit ones
I
I've
don't
seen.
remember who that was. Like, I don't even remember the Captain America post-credit scene.
It's just Sam Wilson going to talk to two different people in that like
Like, who did he talk to? I don't even
he
remember.
talked to Harrison Ford, San Redness. He's like,
Yeah.
"Hey Thunderbolt Ross, I'm gonna go talk to the Thunderbolts who have nothing to do with you." And then he talked to Tim Blake Nelson in there too,
Did he?
who's like, "Hey,
Oh, yeah.
there
He gave a warning about
are
something.
other dimensions," and
Yeah.
he's like,
Oh, yeah, we knew
"Fucking
that.
okay,
Yeah,
what
like,
the hell do I
we
care?"
already knew that. Thanks.
It's like, you think this is the only dimension? It's like, what the hell are you
It's
talking
like,
about?
no, we don't think it's the only dimension. We've gone through this many times.
Oh boy. Okay.
I guess maybe we shouldn't start with the post-credit thing. We can get into that, but
all right. Well, what do you want to talk about?
well, fuck it, let's just do it. So they're the Avengers then, I guess. I didn't see that coming.
I think that was the worst part of the movie when they.
Yeah, it did. Like, that's what I mean about them, like, trying to course correct and do weird things, because it felt like there's a big question around, well, there is no Avengers, but there's an Avengers movie coming, so you need to do some sort of preamble for the Avengers. And then, like, they were like, oh, well, like, these guys that are new Avengers, isn't that like a funny gag at the end? And well, I did. It was funny, like showing all the marketing stuff that they did.
It was funny. I just don't understand what Bucky's motivations would be, because he was already in the Avengers, and
was he though?
Yeah, he was already in the Avengers proper, and then he ran for Congress, and then
was he in the Avengers proper though? I'm not sure if he ever was.
Let's put a pin in that. But and then he was trying to take down Valentina, and then she's like, "Oh, this is a new Avengers," and then all of a sudden they're just like going along with this plan for her to just like do sleight of hand. Hey, look over here! Don't think I was the person who was.
That didn't bug me as much, because you could tell like they really played it up that like he did not want to be doing that. And that's also the thing that I was trying to get at, is where it's like they're trying to just like retcon a bunch of stuff. I feel like a lot of the stuff they did in Captain America Brave New World, they were like, well, we're not going to worry about that, and we'll just throw in a couple of lines to say that we're not worrying about that. Like, we're nothing to do with Thaddeus Ross. Thunderbolts comes from a totally different thing.
It was a funny solution.
It was a fun solution, but then it's like, oh, we're not going to really worry about Captain America supposedly making new Avengers, because we'll just say that these guys are the new Avengers. And it's just like, okay, well, you need to have a conversation. So we'll do a funny gag about how they're going to sue him for copyright law. That'll be fun. It's like, yeah, it is fun, but it's kind of stupid at the same time.
It is kind of funny how like a big, like, it's not even a theme, like this sort of like a subplot is like on marketing and branding.
Yeah,
because like the plot sort of kicks off with Yelena saying like, I want to be like front facing.
Yeah.
I want to
be a hero. Basically.
I want to be standing there with people applauding me.
Yeah. It is a good like main crux of this movie is like, what is being a hero about, and what is it that like, what do you need to do in order to be a hero?
Everyone wants to feel appreciated and valued.
Yeah. I liked it a bit at the end, like how you were saying that like they spent the whole movie trying to take Val down, and then at the end it was like, oh, it's fine, we'll just work for it. But I love the way like Yelena was like, well, we own you now. So it's more like they have all of the resources that Val has, including Avengers Tower, which is Avengers Tower again now, I guess. But like they basically have something over her, so that she's working for them more than like they're working.
I guess so, but it's not like she's the only person who can like use government resources.
But I don't know if it is government resources. It's like, that's the other thing though.
It's sort of private.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because they've been trying to put this Val character into the MCU in a bunch of different ways, right?
But now she's head of the CIA.
So they introduced her at the end of Black Widow, and she was like, "Oh, I'm the head of this private security Ox Corps or whatever." And then they totally shit can that, and like in Wakanda Forever, like, oh, we'll just bring her in and say she's leading the CIA, and it's like, well, that's not what she was. But we don't care about that. We'll just move forward. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what about in the Winter Soldier, like when she was still not the CIA? It's like, no, she's CIA now. It's like, don't worry about it. And then they're like, okay.
The
So
timeline got
yeah, so in
messed up a little
this
bit,
movie,
too.
they like made a whole point where Bunk from The Wire is like, so you used to be this, and now and then you were the leader of the CIA, and now you're not. And it's like, okay, thanks for clearing that up with some exposition there, because they totally fucked it up because they didn't know what they were doing with this character.
Well, that hearing scene was really great, and
Yeah, it was.
Bunk is always great.
You gotta have it.
He always bumps up everything, I would
There's
say.
a couple of people from The Wire in this movie.
Who else was from?
Frank Sabatka.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just
You're playing
up.
Holt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Playing Holt.
Yeah, he's seen some tough times. That guy.
Right? He's weathered.
I think that they still probably died, right? Because that helicopter for sure crashed.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They did kind of wave away, like, did anyone actually die?
Yeah, it's like with the blip, right? When they did that, it's like, what about people that were blipped on airplanes? How did they come back?
I think this was a really good way of evoking the same kind of emotional reaction from the blip in a different, smart way.
It was really terrifying.
Like
I
when they
really
just
wish
fucking
they hadn't shown all that in the trailer, because
I didn't know that was in the trailer.
Yeah,
no, so I got the full emotional weight of that.
Oh, that's great, because they spoiled all that in the trailer.
Why did they do this shit?
I know.
Like that little girl just disappearing into like a smoke of depression just was
Exactly.
so affecting.
It really was.
At that moment, I knew they were all coming back, because they're not going to fucking just kill a little girl.
Yeah. Well, yeah. At first, I was like, oh my God, are they just killing people here? Then I was like, this is way too many people. Like, they're not just going to say everyone in New York is now dead.
Everyone in New York / Toronto.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
But no, I thought that Bob / the Century was a really effective and scary villain.
Really, really was. But he just he was very overpowered, but I think that was like kind of the point.
Well, it's the like he's kind of sort of just becomes like the perfect being, but you're giving someone this power who does not have the emotional
not the mental
stability to handle that, which, like, to be fair, is probably like 99.99999% of the population. Like, they have a really good line here where they say, you give super serum to Steve Rogers, you get Captain America. But like, this guy is like someone who has like struggled with depression and mental health. Like, and you can't give godlike powers to someone like that and expect to have a good result.
I really loved the bit where it's like, I was on Beth. It's like the chicken spinning the side.
He referenced the chicken spinning earlier, too.
Yeah, he did, right? They did the setup for that. Otherwise, you would have been like, what is happening? So, yeah, maybe we should get into that then, the whole ending, like, rooms of mental torture, which is a really great concept, I thought.
It was really, like, and we've seen that sort of thing before in movies.
Like living in your worst nightmare, your worst memory.
Well, like, sort of like Pacific Rim comes to mind, where you kind of, like, drift into some bad memories.
Right.
But this was a clever way to do it, and I think it also served the plot in that, like, you have a bunch of heroes who can't fly around, so you have to find them. You have to have them have some kind of tactile way to take on a villain of that size.
Exactly. Yeah.
With like how else could they possibly, like, they can't even get up to him. He's floating in the sky.
Yeah, it was a great scene when he just comes in and just like swats them away like they're bugs when they all try and fight him.
Yeah.
He's just like not even trying, and he's just like, no, you can't even touch me.
It like pumps up Bucky to have like a good second wave, and it's just like totally like limp dick effort.
Just pulls his arm off and smashes him with it. It's like, literally, you guys cannot do anything against this person.
Yeah. But no, it was doing like a really good like Inception type thing.
Yes,
we
really
got to go into this guy's brain and kind of I think they actually did a very good job of saying, like, we are not curing this person's like depression or like bipolarism or whatever.
Yeah.
We're giving him tools to kind of help him cope with it.
Right, exactly.
So I feel like it's actually like a very modern take on that sort of thing. Whereas, like, maybe if this movie came out 10 years ago, they'd be like, yeah, you have friends. Now you're all better.
Yeah, you're cured. That's all you needed was a hug. I was actually quite a bit surprised by how dark it got with like some of the stuff, like even the John Walker stuff, just like ignoring his kid and being on his phone.
Man, that was
like so heart-wrenching, because there's so many people out there that live in that life, and it's just like, Wow, it's crazy.
Well, I know, like I've caught myself doing it
That's
before,
what I
like
mean.
just
Like,
being
it's like
on
you
your
see
phone. Like
yourself there,
it was very relatable, and like the fact that that is sort of his greatest shame,
right?
like really,
Exactly.
like that's like very relatable. But it's also kind of funny, like that's his greatest shame, not like murdering
Yeah,
someone.
it's like Bucky was like, "Oh yeah, my past was great, so that was fine."
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. But it speaks to this movie's restraint in that it was only 2 hours long.
Yes,
Like they could have spent like 20 more minutes doing like
they
that
could. They
dark
could have made
shit.
it, but they could have made it a lot longer for sure.
And maybe they did film some stuff and they decided to keep a more
Yeah, it'd
streamlined
be interesting to
version
know if they
here.
did cut it down or if they just were like, "Nope, we've got enough. We don't need to wallow in all this stuff." Because they went to the well on like Yelena's memory. They did. Did they do a Red Guardian one? I don't think they did. Right? Did he even mention it?
No, but like it sort of would be the same
Yeah,
flavor,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
Exactly. They didn't need to,
they
right?
belong to that same beast,
I don't think they
basically.
only really showed Yelena and John Walker, right? They didn't show anybody else's.
Yeah, well, and that can kind of speak to how some characters are a little underserved. Like
Yes.
I think if you missed the second Ant-Man movie, you'd be wondering who this ghost
Yeah,
character
they didn't
is.
really explain who she was or give her any kind of backstory or motivations. It was just kind of like, yeah, you're a Black Ops person who can walk through walls.
Yeah.
Which maybe you didn't need more than that, that's fine.
I think the actress, I don't know what her name is. I think she made a lot out of
She really
the
did. She's
role that
really
she
good.
had.
She's really good.
You could see like there are a couple times her character had the opportunity to just go off on her own and then she came back. And
Yes.
I think she did a really good job of showing like that she has this vulnerability. She wants to be
Yeah.
part of a team with them, but she can't admit it.
Yeah, there was a lot of like pretending to be badass, I don't care, but it's like
Yeah.
they all just really were just like hurting people that needed a hug. And that's how the movie ended.
Yeah. I think Florence Pugh probably has like the healthiest mindset. Like she
She could recognize
well
it.
she wears her like mental health issues on her sleeve and she was like
Right.
very upfront with everybody whereas like other people are kind of in denial about it, like um US agent and Wyatt Russell in particular. I
Right.
think again he did such a great job of showing someone who's like trying to put out this like exterior of like toughness and strength, but he's
Right.
like
Right.
totally vulnerable and
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
weak on the inside.
I love how he just gets called out so much for being an asshole.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like,
you're an asshole, right?
well,
Get
and
it?
Bob laughing at him saying like, "You're Captain America. Like, why are you such an asshole?" Well, and
Wow.
Taskmaster
Well,
just
I was pretty.
got. Oh,
I was.
now I did it.
It's hard. It's
Taskmaster.
hard, right?
It is.
I was right about her not being in it
Yeah,
very
you.
much, but I was shocked by how quickly they were just like, she's
Well,
dead now. Like Olga Kurylenko was on screen for like 2 seconds, and then they just
and
shot her
like
in the face.
killed like at the end of like a fun little fight.
Right?
Like was pretty affecting.
Part of me was like, why did you have her in the boot? I feel like that was just a cruel thing to do.
It was sort of cruel for her to be in the movie.
It was like fan service for like all those fans who hated that we did this character. Okay, we're gonna shoot her in the face now, so you guys know, because it's a really cool character. Because her character's thing is that she copies the skills of the person she's fighting. That's why she's fighting John Walker and she has the shield and she's like as good with him as it. Because that's the whole point of her character. It's a cool
Right.
character. She just copies the person she's fighting.
But yeah, but she's also sort of like a Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, there's a little
thing.
bit of that. Yeah, so it would. I don't think that character would have worked in the team. So, but like, why have her? I guess they just needed an extra one.
Yeah, to give it some
It needed
stakes.
to be even, so the whole "I came here for you, you came here for me" thing worked.
I think that works better with 3 people than 4
Actually, you
people.
might be
Though.
right about that. So now I'm thinking about it. I'm never that good at maths.
And like it's a sort of stupid plan. Like just like bring them all in there one at a time, then have a hit squad there who murders them.
Yeah,
Like, doesn't that work better?
yeah. It was a. Well, I guess they thought like as long as you get them in there, they're not going to be able to escape, which would have worked out, I guess. You're going to burn all the evidence anyway.
But then they all teamed up together.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming. The unteamable team teamed.
And then yeah, maybe we should dig into Bob a little bit. Like
Yeah, so we not really talked about Bob. I really liked him. I thought he did a great job.
yeah, like on I guess like all the 3 layers of Bob in this, like
Yeah,
the regular like kind of dorky Bob with some mental health issues that we saw, who's
Yeah.
like kind of sweet
Yeah,
and just like looking for some friends, and then there's the Century
I love that
character
he dyed his hair and he made it a real big plot
Yeah.
point.
who's like kind of like very self-confident, but it's paper thin.
Yeah,
And then there's just like the like the dark void.
Yeah.
That's like his depression.
It's
So
like his dog passenger.
very good Dexter reference there. I was gonna say the black dog.
There you go.
But no, I think he did a great job. I don't know what that actor's name is, but
No, I can't remember.
clearly he's like, I assume in the next Avengers movie he's gonna have like a big moment at the end where
He has to be Sentry.
he has to step up, be Sentry, and take that risk.
Lewis Pullman, his name is. I really like the way that they were able to write an overpowered character that is like could just kill anybody with a whim, but then make it like write it in a way where like, oh, but he can't really use that power.
It is very hard to like give people that sort of power and make it interesting, and
Yeah.
like that's.
I mean, talking about Superman, right? I mean, like
he's basically
Superman on steroids. Like he's like Superman, but also can do like stuff with his mind. He can set things on fire and crush stuff. Like,
well, it reminded me of Superman from the Flashpoint Paradox timeline, where he was like found by the U.S. government, then like kept in a
Superman.
box. But yeah, not like quite evil Superman, but like Superman with just like this untapped power, but it does not have like the moral fiber that they provide to him. It's just sort of like this, this like wounded creature who doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah. No, because I was a bit like, how are they gonna have like a Superman type character just pop up and like that's gonna be a big deal? But like at the end, he's just like, no, I'm just hanging out, washing dishes, reading a book.
Hey, I watched the dishes. I hope that Yelena's role in the future movies is not just like calming him down.
Yeah, like the new Natasha and Hulk.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
like
done that before.
That
right?
was like sort of that was such a disservice.
Sun's getting real low, Bob.
It was a disservice to both those characters that they got paired off in that way.
That was a weird decision.
So I hope she's not sidelined because like you saw, she was sort of becoming the leader of that group. Yeah, and it would be great if that would continue because I think it worked really well in this movie.
Well, and I think these Avengers movies are going to be a definite like wiping the slate clean and just resetting the table because it's got it's very messy now, right? Like. It's very messy. We have potentially 2 different Avengers teams,
plus Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four showing up.
Well,
plus like potentially X-Men showing up at some point.
Honestly, like lean into that messiness. It again turns a weakness into a strength.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what they're definitely going to do. I think Doomsday is going to be a bit of that, and then definitely Secret Wars is just going to be like just throw everybody in there and just have a tons going on, and then but once that's done, I think it's going to be like, okay, now all these different universes are now done. It's just one universe, and this is now these are now the players in that universe.
It has to be they just go back down to one universe, right?
Like it's got to be, right?
It's just not sustainable.
It's a crisis thing, right? It's a crisis on Infinite Earth thing. So it's like, okay, this has got way too messy now. We're trying to bring in all these different characters that don't necessarily fit with what we already set up in this universe. So now we're just going to converge these into one.
Like, do we have to go to this universe and fix things there every time this stuff comes up? Yeah. Like, it's just too crazy. And it's hard for audiences too. Like, as much as like at times they've done good jobs of making the multiverse make sense.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's just too much. It's too much to keep in your head. Like,
yeah.
It's too Rick and Morty, and it speaks to like like they've got a lot of Rick and Morty writers working on Marvel properties now.
Right. Yeah,
but it's just
it gets very messy.
Like the first 3 phases like had so much going on.
Yeah.
But people for the most part weren't lost.
No, they're very true. I think as soon as they started bringing multiverse stuff into it, I think that's where they started losing people, and I think they realized that, and I think that's part of the reason why. I mean, it's not the biggest reason. Obviously, they moved away from the Kang stuff.
Yeah. Well, but like it's something that can really make one movie like great.
Right.
But when you're trying to apply that to a big franchise like this, it just gets too big, and then there are no stakes. Like the stakes of all universes at once are being threatened. Like who the fuck cares? Like here you have 4 people wandering around in a building just trying to survive, and it feels like it has way more stakes because the world of this movie is these 4 people.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So I'm glad that it got back to those roots. And then I think it worked really well that it shifted later on where it's like, oh, okay, now we have like planetary stakes, but then they still solved it in a very personal way. Like this movie threaded a very impressive needle in that regard.
It really did. You're right about that for sure. Well, we've not got a lot of time left. We haven't really talked about the post-credit scene. So
The Wheaties box, I loved it.
yeah, it's the Wheaties back. I wanted to ask you, how did you feel about Red Guardian in this? Because I remember saying before we went in that he plays it pretty broad, and man, he went broad with this one.
Yeah, the movie needed him though. It really.
It really did. To me, I could have come down a little bit, like take one notch off it, maybe.
No.
It got a bit.
Double it.
Like
Double it.
when he rocks up at the end in that tracksuit, I was a bit like, oh my word, what is happening?
Well, I think it's very realistic that
It
there would
is
be
realistic.
like, hey, let's fucking sell out, guys. Let's do it. And it's so funny that's a guy who's like supposedly a former communist who's telling everyone that they need to sell out. He's got like a tie and an Xbox patch on his.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like all he ever wanted was to be famous, basically, and he is now.
No, exactly. It's like he doesn't care what country or ideology he's serving. He just wants people to clap for him.
So then they do a time jump of 14 months, which I thought was interesting. So they've been the Avengers for over a year at that point.
The new Avengers.
Which is very interesting. I guess they're just not going to really delve into that time period at all because it's post Captain America, obviously. There's nothing coming up TV shows that would be set in and around that time, I don't think, right?
You know what? I have dipped out of the TV shows a bit, I don't know what's on the slate.
I mean, last thing they did was Daredevil, which I don't even know when that was set, but that was a very personal story as well. Well, smaller story, I should say.
I should check that out.
Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, so they're now the new Avengers, and
it doesn't.
Then the Fantastic Four show up. That's about it.
It doesn't really make sense to me that I just found my garbage lid. I've been looking for that. There was a windstorm. I've seriously been looking for that.
That's amazing.
Remind me to pick that up. I've been missing that for like 3 days. That big windstorm the other day.
Talking about personal stories.
Okay, well that's my arc. My arc is now complete. I've been looking for that.
His very own Captain America shield.
Oh, the shield turning into a taco thing was really fun.
I love how they just left it.
The fact that it's still like that.
Using it.
Well, because like it's made of adamantium, right?
Or
like
vibranium or whatever.
Or vibranium, yeah. I can't remember which one actually exists in this universe.
They really well, they haven't talked about adamantium at all until they talked about it in Captain America: Brave New World when they said the Celestial is full of adamantium.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so it has just been. Was the original Captain America shield vibranium?
Yeah,
then?
vibranium. Yeah.
When it, like, I have to assume in the comics.
In the comics, it was adamantium.
Right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but in the MCU, it was like, I don't think it was Wakandan, but yeah, I think.
Yeah, like it, Wakandan and adjacent.
It was what's his name? Tony Stark's dad made it, right?
Howard
Stark made
Howard
it.
the Duck
with some vibranium that they found, I guess.
So, Pete, as you are aware, we rate things out of a scale out of 6.5. Yeah. It's a totally normal thing to do. Where would this land for you?
I'd probably give this a good 5. Maybe a bit more, actually.
I was gonna say 5.5, maybe.
Yeah, I was potentially gonna say 5.5. Yeah, somewhere in between there, I think.
I will say, like, I think that this has been my favorite Marvel movie for a while now.
So where would you rank this up against Deadpool Wolverine?
Higher than Deadpool
Wolverine. Higher than Guardians 3? Higher than Far From Home?
I think, well, higher than Far From Home, which I did not really like that much. No. Come on. We all know what that was.
I loved it. It's my favorite. But I was in the bag for that movie anyway.
I like this probably maybe just a notch above Guardians 3.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
It's like Guardians 3 just like it has like that fat on it, right? That I've talked about. Like
true.
Whereas like I love
Guardians 3.
I love James Gunn as a filmmaker, but it's just like there's just too many characters, there's too much history with those characters.
Yeah, it was definitely the third movie, right?
Yeah. Like maybe 5 years from now, I'll like Guardians 3 more than this one or whatever. Yeah, but this one functions better as a movie, I would say.
Yeah, I'm with you though. I feel like the end, I don't know how well worked for me. Like all them being the Avengers stuff, it kind of, I mean, I get what they were doing and it was kind of fun, but like I'm like, oh, that's now it's saying more things than I was prepared for it to say. Put it that way.
Yeah, like if the movie ended with them just arresting Valentina, I think I would like the movie even more
Yeah.
if it just had a clean
Well,
exit
that's
like
what I was
that.
gonna say. This movie definitely wasn't bogged down with all the we need to build in a bunch of world building for
Yeah.
the wider universe. It didn't do any of that, but then it did. The last, like you say,
Yeah.
if it truly wasn't worried about that, it would have just arrested Val, and that would have been the end. But they're like, no, we need to set up all this stuff happening.
That's probably where like Feige just then stepped in.
Well, it's like people have big questions about who the Avengers are right now because we have an Avengers movie coming out very soon, and we don't have Avengers currently. So we need to clear some of that up a bit, and we also need to like show the Fantastic Four showing up because that movie's coming out soon.
I forgive them.
Yeah,
I forgive them for doing.
That's what I mean. At least that was all just
forgiveness in my heart.
Yeah, that was all just end loaded as well. It's like that's just a teaser for what's coming. Which is fine. Stick that on at the end. I don't mind it.
Yeah,
but like if it hadn't been in there, I think it would have been better.
Yeah, I agree.
I was a little part of me was hoping for an RDJ cameo in the post-credit scene.
Actually, like, I'm gonna give the movie big props for not having any big name cameos in here, which I think is a positive.
That's a really good point. There was none, right?
It's restraint. Yeah. That restraint is what has been missing from the MCU.
Yeah, they could have easily had
Sam Wilson in there, right?
Definitely. But they could have also like even in the post-credit stuff, they could have had a Pedro Pascal, like even if it was like, hey, we've just entered your atmosphere and I'm here now.
I think that Fantastic Four movie looks so good.
It looks so good.
The aesthetics they've done and like all the actors are looking good. Like
I'm a little concerned about how they're going to mesh that with the MCU because they're obviously going to leave their very 60s like stylized universe to head to the MCU.
I hope they keep those same outfits. Those outfits look good.
They're going to be, I mean, and I guess they'll play up on that, right? It's going to be a bit of a fish out of water type, like, oh, your universe doesn't have this, and but like I've got faith that they'll do it. But I'm glad that they held back any character reveals in this movie. Like
the ship with the 4 on it is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Just the nice tilt they did to reveal. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's the Fantastic Four ship. We know this. But then when they took the tilt to show the actual logo, it was like, now we're running.
I think Marvel has forgotten like, show, don't tell.
Yes,
and now they're just rediscovering like how to just tease people out a little bit.
Right.
Like you don't have to give everyone everything they want. Just like people like to be teased, Marvel.
You remember when you used to do that so well?
They did used to do it really well, and then they forgot. They got too successful.
No.
But anyways, we should wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap this one up.
Join us next week for
more Superman stuff.
Yeah.
And also Fight or Flight.
Okay, there we go.
I'm so excited for that.
A nice, that's Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett.
A nice, light,
yeah,
action movie.
It's, a bit different from this one, but there you go. There won't be any great cameos in that one either. So
probably not.
No spoilers for the extended Fight or Flight universe.
All right, anything else, Pete?
No, I think that's it until Fight or Flight. That's the final word.